Welcome back to another video. My name is Henrik and today we're going to be looking at the facelift of the ID.3, which is in the Pro variant. The car is going to start now at around 40,000 euros, or just under 40,000 euros. Our test vehicle, however, is going to set you back 55,000 euros and 780 euros, which is quite a lot. And with the environmental bonus, that's going to go down to around 53,100. If you want to get the bigger battery, which is a 77 kilowatts an hour battery, that's going to start at around 47,595 euros, which is also a very hefty price, and that's only going to be a 4-seater, which is very interesting as well. We're going to look at all the different changes that come with the new facelift variant, but make sure to check out today's sponsor, which is CarVertical, the perfect place for you to see if you're getting ripped off or you have been ripped off when buying a used car. All you have to do from CarVertical is go on the website and input the VIN number of the car that you're trying to buy or that you already own. And then you can see a full report, a detailed report of the whole history of that car. For instance, here we have a Tesla Model S with, you can see the inputted VIN number, which is an electric car. And you can see, okay, there has been no theft. The on meter, however, there is an exclamation mark beside it, so most likely there is a problem with that, and there's also damage. You can scroll down, you can see, for instance, some different pictures where the car has, for instance, been auctioned off and has been in a crash. So if he's telling you the car is completely fine, never been in a crash, you can tell him this, and well, then he can just run away because he's scared. You can also see the last known mileage that has gone up to 50,000 miles. If that again has been tampered with when he's trying to sell it to you, you can obviously check that out. And in general, you can also see the damage down there. So if you are interested in CarVertical, make sure to check out the link in the description and use code NONSTOPDRIVING for a 10% discount on your first report. So the only main difference in the design from the outside is in the front, where there has been quite a lot of changes. For instance, we can see on the hood, there are some more of these like aerodynamic touches in here, so like an indent into the hood, which just makes it look a little bit more sporty, which doesn't look bad, I like that. And we can also see further down, well, first of all, we took some of Shrek's baby with us, so sorry about that, Shrek. And we also have some new like aerodynamic touches that go towards cooling the brakes on the side. So those have also been added. Those weren't in the previous one. And also the, let's call it grille in the front, has also been a little bit decreased in size just to make it look a little bit different and also a little bit more sportier as well. We used to have like this black lip in here, which make it look like a mouth, but we also don't have that anymore. So that has also been removed. We can also see optionally, we do have the IQ lights in here, which are going to cost you a good amount of extra, but they are fairly nice, or matrix LED lights, which are nice. Let's go also further to the side now, just so we can look at some other things around the car. You now also have the option to get 19-inch alloy wheels on here. We also on here have our 20-inch wheels, which look pretty cool, and they're like the aerodynamic wheels. They're going to be a little bit better for your CV value, and also they have an okay braking distance. I don't know exactly what the value is, but I've read online that the braking distance is supposed to be not the greatest, so we're going to check that out right now to see how fast it is. So let's see where we can get. Let's go up to 100 and down to 0. .67, that's still a lot more than we had the other test, I think. We got 34 meters. I'm still better than you, which is really good, and definitely unlike any of those claims that I read online that the braking distance is supposed to be fairly long. So 34 meters is actually very good value. And if we look on the side, we can see that, well, basically nothing changed when it comes to design-wise, basically the same as in the previous version. Apart from, for instance, you now have the chrome bar, or not the chrome bar, but like this aluminum bar, which is standard with the car, which was previously an optional extra. We also have tinted out rear windows, and we also have keyless go in the front for both the passenger and the driver side. And we also have automatically foldable side mirrors with a camera below for our 360-degree camera, which is nice. And just in general, a pretty aerodynamic look. You can also see that the car is fairly short, 4 meters and 26 long, which is really practical for city car driving. And it's also not that wide. Without these side mirrors, 1 meter and 80, or 1 meter and 81 centimeters, which is not wide at all. So very practical when it comes to city car driving. On here we have our, not fuel tank, but our battery tank, or battery charging port, where you're going to be able to charge this car at 120 kilowatts. Previously, or not previously, but with the bigger battery, you're going to be able to charge it at 170 kilowatts. That's going to get you from 5 to 80% in around 30 to 35 minutes, which is fairly decent. And the battery size for the smaller one is 58 kilowatts an hour, and the bigger one is going to be 77 kilowatts an hour. Let's also see how fast we can go, because we have the same horsepower in the bigger and the smaller battery, which is 204 with 310 Newton meters of torque. So let's see how fast we can go, and also let's look at the consumption afterwards. For the 0 to 100 test, we're going to turn off, first of all, traction control via this, so ASR off, which is basically our traction control. We're going to hit into the mode and also going to go into sport, which we are now in. So let's go fully on the brake and launch it. That initial kick is non-existent, and I don't even know if we're going to reach it on this straight. Nope, we're not. Actually, no, we did reach it, 8.14 seconds, but I don't think I fully reached it completely. So we're going to do one more time to see if we can actually reach it better. Well, okay, that kick did not exist at all. 7.67 though, 0 to 100 is claimed in 7.4 seconds, and the slope was only negative 0.6, so a real world test, which is fairly accurate to what we got. That's actually the best value we have gotten, so again, I'm better than my German partner here. So yeah, that is fairly decent, and top speed also is 160. If you do want to get the bigger battery, the 0 to 100 is going to be a little bit slower because obviously there's going to be a lot more weight. 1.8 tons is how much this car is going to weigh in at. So we did start at around 37%. We did try 3 different loading stations due to the fact that we just didn't get the value that we wanted to. The highest we got in here, if we go onto the loading curve, we can see was 72.2, and the highest we got was I think 91 for like a brief second. So on average we got on average we got 59.2, and it took us a total of 22 minutes to charge 22.37 kilowatts an hour, which is really not that much. So claimed 120. Just to get a comparison, this thing is also definitely not, well, it's definitely working completely fine, because behind us is Ioniq 5, and that thing is starting with the 500 volt technology at 228 kilowatts. So this thing is a little bit slower. So WLTP is claimed 15.9 kilowatts an hour. We currently have 16 kilowatts an hour, and if we look at the long time, which is 346, that's 19.5, but that is mostly on the Autobahn, so around 200 kilometers of that is on the Autobahn. In the last 175 kilometers that we have driven, we have used 16 kilowatts an hour. When I'm driving in city, this goes down to around 15.1, so basically what is claimed when the WLTP. You can get a claimed range of 409 kilometers with a bigger battery. I think it's around 540 kilometers, which is fairly decent. With the smaller one, it's perfect for a city car or even some longer distance. Obviously, if you're driving on the Autobahn, that's going to increase the fuel consumption or the battery consumption quite a lot. So after all that jablabla, let's take a look at the design in the back, where you can actually have a pretty cool thing. If you want to avoid some tickets, you can just do this. Look at that. You don't even know what car you're driving, because, or you know what car you know what car you're driving, but you can't see the license plate anymore, because this is where we put our towing hitch on. It's not going to allow you to tow anything, but you can, for instance, put a towing hitch in here for 390 euros extra, and that's going to allow you to put a max of 75 kilograms when it comes to, well, you can basically put some bicycles on there, so your e-bicycles or whatever you want, you can put those on there, which is good, but I like the design there, you flip that out. In the design in the back, nothing changed. Again, we do still have our white ID.3 logo on here. One thing that did change, however, is that this separate part of the light now is separately illuminated. So if this is open, so if you open the trunk, it still works, unlike previously where it wouldn't work anymore. In here we have a towing or storage space of 385 liters. Now it's really windy. Up to 1,265, which is okay. And down here we also have some more storage space where you have your cables. So you could also flip all of this out, but then it's gonna have a big loading lip in there. And you also don't have any like pockets on the side with a net, but you do have a little bit of storage space in there. And we can obviously flip out the back seats as well. And the biggest change in the interior is that we have better quality now. If you take a look at the side, for instance, we can see that instead of hard plastic on where the door handle used to be, or not used to be, where the door handle is, we now have foamed plastic on there, so a little bit better quality, and also there's a lot of Alcantara on the back there as well, which is fairly good. But we still have these normal features, for instance, a lot of piano black on the door handle, or not the door handle, but where you put your hand on the side, which is not nice because that's going to get dirty quite quickly. We also have fairly good seats in here, which also have this little ID badge on the top. So these are fairly sporty looking seats as well, and they feel very comfortable to sit in as well. And you can also extend out the front little lip in there. That's a lot of breadcrumbs in there. Let's not talk about that. And the passenger and also the driver's side are electrical operatable and also have memory function for both of them, as well as massage function, which is very cool. And one thing I like about the ID models is that we have like these arm rests on there, which are pretty cool. You can just flip them up and down. That's going to allow you to have a lot of space in the center console as well, because in here, for instance, we have a ton of storage space with 2 USB-Cs in here, and in general you can put a lot of stuff in there. But the center console is also fairly low, so you can't put your hand like this. But that's obviously what you have the armrest for. In the center here, we also have our inductive loading and some other storage space. So you flip your phone in there, and that's where it's going to be inductively loading, which is a nice feature. And also 2 cup holders in the middle here, and a little bit more storage space up front. We do have a nice little cool ID badge on the front here with our automatic climate control, which is all through the touch infotainment system, which I'm not the biggest fan of because we've looked at this in the ID.5. It's not very smooth. It's not the best, and just all of the touch sensitive controls, not the biggest fan of it. It does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wirelessly, which is nice, so I usually just plug that in and I'm going to use that because it's just easier to use. When it comes to the steering wheel, this is now also out of vegan leather, so there's no actual leather in here anywhere in the interior, which is also good. But we do also have sensitive or touch sensitive controls on here, which is in the newer models. They remove those touch sensitive controls, which is nice. With the small heads-up display and the digital cockpit, we're going to take a look at that once we're driving. Quality-wise, otherwise, is fairly okay. But in general, it's basically the same as in the ID.5, and in the ID.5 it was fairly ridiculous considering the price that you're paying. You get that interior. In here, I think for the price it's a little bit better, but you're still paying 55,000 euros, which is quite insane. And the back also feels fairly spacious. The legroom in here is completely fine. Also, the bench in here is fairly high, so you are going to be able to put your feet down if you put your foot all the way down, not your feet down, your leg down onto the bench, which is quite comfortable. So you can sit in here for a longer distance, even though the car can't go that long with a smaller battery. 2 USB-Cs in the center down here. And the seating position is also a little bit interesting. The seats are fairly, well, tight, I'd say. So if you have a fairly big back or you're a little bit bigger in general, you might not have the most comfortable seating position in here because your back is going to be like touching these. Like if you look a little bit closer here, you can see how far they intrude outwards. So if you're a little bit bigger than this, which is 30 centimeters, it's not going to be that comfortable. In the center, we also have a center console where you can have cup holders in here, and you can also flip this over so you have a very good pass-through, so you can put some skis in there or whatever you want. We also have a panoramic window in here, which looks wonderful and just makes the interior look a little bit more spacious. We also in the side again have a better quality than to the predecessor, but instead of foamed plastic on the top, now we still have hard plastic on the top, so it hasn't changed from the previous one, but there's more general like Alcantara in there, and we also have some more piano black on the side. So one thing that you will definitely notice when driving this car is a surrounding view of this car. It's phenomenal. It's definitely aimed for, well, to be a complete city car. If you look at, for instance, the side and the front here, the A-pillar, you have an extra window in there. This window insanely big as well. This is just a massive window, one of the biggest one I've seen. And in general, even if you look out the back, big windows there. Pillars are not too big, so really great surrounding view. And because the bonnet in the front is so short, you basically can tell wherever everything is in the front because it's just so easy to look over it, and just makes the car really easy to drive in the city. But where Volkswagen obviously is always fairly expensive is with all the extra features, and that is the things that we have in here. For instance, you're going to be paying almost 4,500 euros extra for your assist. Then for your navigation display, you're going to pay a little bit extra, which is just ridiculous when you're considering that you're buying a car that's already starting at almost 40,000 euros, and then with all the extras in here, 55,000 euros, which is just phenomenally expensive. That is pretty ridiculous, but that's going to allow you to get a lot of assistant features. For instance, you have a wonderful heads-up display, which we already had in the ID.5, for instance. We have our digital cockpit, which is really irrelevant, and I hate this little adjuster on here as well. We have adaptive cruise control with lane centralization assistance. There we go. We also have blind spot assistant. So in general, quite a lot of features that you have in here, which is just going to make it again easy to drive over long distance. But you got to keep, you got to think about it, you're paying a lot of extra for that, and do you really need that? And you do also, and the other thing that you gotta pay extra for is the IQ lights that we have in here. Those are obviously gonna be very nice because they also move a little bit with you when you're turning into corners, and they also give you that pretty cool welcoming thing where they like move the eyes, which looks pretty cool. But again, you gotta pay a lot of extra for it. They are fairly good, but is it worth the price? Again, you could theoretically just get the basic version of this car and you'll be pretty good off for just a normal city car. So if we press on this button, for instance, we can change between, okay, do we want adaptive cruise control or do we also want lane or travel assist, which is basically autonomous driving level 2. So we can press on set, and then it's gonna basically keep that and see if it's also going to keep us in the center with the steering. And there we go. It's also going to show you, okay, there's 75 kilometers an hour in front of us, which makes no sense. 75 kilometers is not a sign I've ever seen in my life. But that's going to basically do recuperation, but it's a predictive recuperation. So it's going to automatically do that. And I'm just doing barely any steering input in here, and it does a fairly good job of keeping it in the center here. Yeah, okay, and now it says 70 in front of us. So let's actually also quickly see that. If it's going to slow down, 70 is right in front of us there. So you can see it's going to slow down now. It's going to start slowing down. And as soon as we get to that 70, it's going to be perfectly at the 70. And oh, that's a little bit too far to the left, in my opinion. And there we go, perfectly in the 70. And then it's going to be 50 in front of us as well, which is nice. So the predictive recuperation here works really nice. Okay, so the 75 was because of the corner. So it also does it in corners if the corner is a little bit harder, because it uses Google Maps as well. It's not Google Maps, it uses maps, satellite imagery to basically tell you there's a corner in front of us, so make sure to slow down. When we're driving here in the city, we can also feel that the suspension is fairly hard. We do have the optional DCC dampers in here, so we can see that because we have the different modes in here. So we do have Sport, Eco, and individual. But the dampers in here, in general, the drivetrain is a little bit on the firmer side. There's the old ID.3. It's a little bit on the firmer side and not as comfortable as you might expect it to be, but still okay. Tire noises and stuff like that is also basically non-existent here. Wind noise is fairly loud when you're going a little bit faster, because the windows are also very big in here, so you have a lot of gaps between them, so that's going to make the wind noise a little bit louder. But in general, like I said, surrounding view and stuff like that is very nice. So in general, the driving quality in here is decent, and because it's so small, very practical when it comes to city driving. And on top of that, because we do have the optional 20-inch wheels, that's going to make it a little bit more firmer when it comes to the suspension. So you can basically feel every bump in the road, which if you want to drive sporty, that's not bad. We do also have the heads-up display in here, which again is basically completely eliminates the digital cockpit because you don't need it, because it shows you the same information, but as well as the IQ Drive, which has this like big light bar in the front. I'm a big fan of that, just looks amazing, and the heads-up display in general is just very nice because it does have 3D augmented reality navigation, which is nice, so it shows you the big arrows in the front, and in general, if you have to turn, the light bar is going to show up, okay, and show you to which side you have to turn. I really like that function, and it just makes it more practical and easy to navigate around spaces where you don't know how to drive around. And in general, the infotainment system in that regards is good, but infotainment system in here is just really laggy and not that practical. And you do also have the option to automatically park. For instance, it did just detect some parking areas in there. Actually, you know what? Let's give it a try and see how well it works. We're going to test it out here in the next parking spot. Actually, let's give it a try behind this car right here. So if we drive past it, it should theoretically, there we go. So we're going to press on it. And we're going to press on start. And it's going to turn in. The car behind me is probably like, okay, why is he taking the smallest parking spot here? Oh, okay, it works. Yeah. I mean, the front is very small. It's also hopefully not hit this curb on the side. Is it going to drive forward? Yeah, it is. Okay, I'd say that was a supreme parking job, better than I would have done, because it's fairly close to the side. I would have been a little bit scared of the of my alloy wheels, but in general, that's a really good parking job. I didn't expect that. A little bit slow, but completely fine, completely fine. And we do also have the 360-degree camera, like I said, which is nice to use. Good quality. You can also have a fairly wide view of that. And in general, a good one. You also have the option to look at it completely, but you can't move it around, which is a little bit unfortunate, but you can also adjust a couple of things in there. So what's my final verdict on the facelift of the ID.3? Well, there's a couple of touches which I really like. For instance, the design in the front looks a lot better in my opinion, and also in the interior you get a lot of better quality now. Considering the price that the car starts at, that is something that definitely needed an update. Even though I still think the price is way too expensive for this car. The rivals for this are also going to be at the same price range. So Cooper Born is a little bit cheaper, which is basically the same car, just looking a little bit more sporty in my opinion. Or Peugeot 208 electric, which is also around 2,000 to 3,000 euros cheaper. So I mean, it's a segment where the cars are fairly expensive, and the European market is usually just way more expensive when it comes to electric cars. But I still think it's a practical car for the city and for a little bit of a longer distance drives. And in general, a very well done car. I definitely recommend this over, for instance, an ID.5. Really depends on what you want to use it for though, but still a lot better than the other ID.5 because that price is just ridiculous for that car. Hope you guys did enjoy, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.